Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook on Friday the 19th of July. Now, as has been the case all the way through the summer so far, it's a rather mixed pattern that continues. There's some very wet weather on the way for the Western Highlands as we go into the start of next week, just to be aware of. Then it becomes hot and humid into the middle of the week as the airflow turns to the south. That destabilises into the risk of thunderstorms, and by the end of the week, it looks as though we're back to square one. Let's just set the scene heading through the next few days. We'll look at the detailed synoptic charts in a moment, but just to tell the general story as we move to the weekend and beyond. Low pressure is in charge through Saturday. That system will pull away gradually toward the east. We're seeing low pressure systems out over the Atlantic at this stage and organising themselves into more of a conveyor belt, a straight line flow that's got a lot of moisture entrained within it, and that taking aim at Ireland and Western Scotland through the course of Sunday into Monday and Tuesday. And once these straight line flows come in, they do produce a lot of rain once they interact with the Western Mountains. So that's really one to be aware of as we go into Monday and Tuesday. And then a bump in the jet stream flow really develops as pressure builds over the near continent. The airflow then is tipped more into a south by southwesterly. The heat and humidity out of Spain and France gets drawn northwards. Some very hot weather on the way for much of England and Wales at least, but the heat and humidity will be felt almost all the way across the country. What creates that, though, is ultimately responsible for its downfall as well, because the U-bend sort of pattern that forms with a ridge to the east and a trough to the west just destabilises things, so that by the middle of the week, as cooler air moves in aloft over very warm air in the lower layers of the atmosphere, it unleashes the instability for thunderstorms, and eventually fresher Atlantic air moves in later on in the week. That's the general theme. Then let's try and get some details day by day. The chart for Saturday has low pressure and a weather system that's been around on Friday moving away eastwards across the North Sea. Bits of troughs and wraparound fronts are left across the country. A blustery day across the Pennines and across the lakes and Wales too, with a westerly flow. Quite an unstable atmosphere here will trigger some heavy bursts of rain. Locally a rumble of thunder is possible on those, but they'll tend to move eastwards through the day. Across the Highlands, lighter winds, a wraparound again of a front could trigger some bursts of rain, and you wouldn't rule out an isolated thunderstorm, especially across the eastern half of the Highlands where there's some slack winds and things move around slowly, so the chance of just building up a heavy shower here. But all of that largely being cleared from the west as fresher air briefly comes in. So as we end Saturday, most of the action is clearing away eastwards. We're looking at the mobile patterns coming in off the Atlantic then as we go into Sunday. A brief ridge of high pressure is in across England and Wales, so a much better day on the cards mostly here for a warm day with some sunshine, maybe some low cloud just at times drifting onto the western coast, but on balance it should be a good day. For Scotland, there's fronts starting to arrive from the west, and it may be that drizzly rain and low cloud gets in across the Western Highlands. Just watch your timing of this one, check your latest forecast for that. The main body of action though is out west of Ireland, and that's coming in to deteriorate, I suspect, by the time we get into Sunday evening and night, for some heavier rain moving in and winds strengthening too, getting to gale force across many of the hills and mountains. So into Monday, we've got a conveyor belt of fronts then coming in on that southwesterly flow, and where those fronts trail over the same location for any length of time, they'll produce some copious amounts of rain. And the Western Highlands, the Northwest Highlands, detail uncertain, but almost anywhere from sort of Loch Lomond up to Skye, northwards, could well see some prolonged heavy rain into Monday and perhaps the first part of Tuesday. Those southwesterlies will be strong as well, and some very powerful gusts running across higher terrain, but also down to some lower slopes just to the immediate lee of the highest tops, so bear that in mind even across toward the Cairngorms. And I suspect the wind will be strong across North Wales and Northern England too, although here, away from the fronts, you won't be seeing anything of the rain, I suspect. The risk of some low cloud, though, that could get dragged in on a humid flow off the Irish Sea. Now, by the time we get into Tuesday daytime itself, it looks as though as the flow begins to tip more towards the south, the fronts just get steered further away, and what rain has been around could well be clearing as we get into Tuesday daytime. There's the risk of something around just left over across western Scotland. We need to watch what the front to the west of Ireland does as well. But as we stand, Tuesday looks a better day. Temperatures rising as the airflow is to the south, could well be into the mid-20s, even across the north coast of Scotland, and feeling quite humid with that southerly flow. The wind not quite as strong, maybe just easing down with time. The risk of being still blustery in places, it could be a warm wind that is still in place through Tuesday. Notice the feature off northwest France. That's a trough of instability, little area of low pressure starting to form. A lot of uncertainty with that one, but it's the risk of generating some thunderstorms then arriving in the south of Britain late Tuesday, and they could move northwards then into Wednesday. Not particularly shown on this chart. They won't understand the detail at this stage, these computer models, but there's the risk, at least on Wednesday, of some instability moving northwards, maybe reactivating some of the old fronts that were still around towards western Scotland. Treat this chart with a pinch of salt, but the idea is a hot, humid day, the risk of some thunderstorms around, just one really to keep an eye on at this stage. Following that system from the west eventually later in the week will be some fresher air, just some uncertainty how quickly all of that arrives. Just to finish off, looking at things beyond the middle of the week, and this is the situation we find ourselves Wednesday into Thursday. The big ridge, the dome of hot and humid air with high pressure across Central Europe. We're on the edge of that. Some very hot conditions again on the way across the continent, and it may well be temperatures into the mid-30s across central southeast England in the middle of the week. All depends how quickly things come in from the Atlantic to destabilise things. At the very least, it looks as though the jet stream is back in charge, and as we go toward next weekend, low pressure to the northwest of the British Isles seems to dominate. There'll be some further rain likely coming in then. Temperatures comparatively cooler, still a fairly warm and humid air mass, but nothing like what will have been around in the middle of the week. But I suspect it's back to being rather changeable. Some rain at times for western areas, low cloud in there as well. It may be that England and Wales still stays under fairly high pressure. I suspect as we go toward the end of the month, though, it's the idea, at the very least, of rain at times. It may be that as we just head towards the start of August, the low that's around Iceland gets drifted eastwards, and a higher pressure ridge that currently on this chart is further west gets pulled in, and things start to improve further down the line. That's the best part of a couple of weeks off, though, and anything could change, of course. So quite a bit going on over the next few days. Keep right up to date for all your local areas on our website. The forecast for 3 days ahead updated every single day, and we'll keep you informed on social media as well. Thanks for watching this video today. Bye for now.